YouTube. This is Jay coming to you from 21st Century Reviews, bringing you another great Star Trek Eagle Moss collection piece. We're talking issue number 3 tonight, the Klingon Bird of Prey. Probably one of the most easily recognizable ships ever to be in Star Trek. This was probably, I think it's fair to say, the second inception of a Klingon vessel, at least in design and use in the shows and in the film industry. This actual model made its debut in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, made in 1984. Again, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, main stars. This thing has a special place in my heart because Star Trek III is one of my favorite movies, despite what reviewers generally make a consensus for and everything. I guess I just remember being a kid, all of about, maybe 4 years old, watching it on television with my parents, and, when you see that thing decloak right above that little freighter and everything, I mean, the thing just looks massive and mean, and, I mean, I'll be fair, Eagle Moss's portrayal of this model is a good portrayal, but to be fair, there's a few criticisms I have for it and everything, and part of being fair with it is to point out that it's a good replica. It is a really good replica. The paint application is good on most of the model. There's some applications to the bottom of it that I find kind of questionable. The reason I can say this is I've actually constructed two different models of this particular ship. The first one was a much smaller scale model that's about the same size as this one, and then the other was the Star Trek Generations model, which was a much larger scale model. So, I was able to put a lot more attention to detail into it, but again, it's kind of where I kind of draw the line with it a little bit and say, okay guys, you could have done a little bit better with this. So let's give a good panning of the actual model so that you can actually see what it looks like. One of my main critiques for this is the fact that it is stuck in flight mode. Now, that's not really a bad thing, per se, but to be fair, in most of your viewing of this ship, you will see it in attack mode, which is with the wings swept downward. Now, it's not to say that that is the only way this ship should be portrayed, but to be also fair, there are multiple classes of this ship. The first class that we ever saw it in the movies was the Burrell class scout ship. Crew complement of approximately 12 individuals, per what Mr. Sulu said in the film. And then we were introduced to the much larger Cavort class cruiser in Star Trek The Next Generation, being the TV series. And that was obviously a much larger ship, carried a full complement of crew, much heavier weapon systems, yada yada, etc. Either way, this ship, had its own, personality depending on which one you went with. As time progressed, we were introduced to other classes of it, being like in Star Trek Generations, they make reference to the class D12. No one really knows what that is other than it just being an outmoded starship. Whatever. And I find it funny that they would actually retire a ship because of defective plasma coils. I'm just saying, just replace the plasma coils. You don't disband a car design because the engine's bad. You get a new engine. So, but to further critique, I have several different models of this kind of ship in my personal collection. One of the main ones, of course, being the big giant model that I built. And I mean, I built it with it built in attack mode, mostly because it's the most recognizable. But one of the things that I find that I dislike about this model is the paint application on the bottom, which I'm going to pan to in one moment. Sorry for the brief delay. Now, I love the application of the fact that there's a hollowed out photon torpedo tube launcher on the nose section of this starship. It's a really good application design to it and everything because there's several models of it that you see in, like, say, Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 5, where it appears that, each class has a different kind of one, whether it be a hollowed out tube for an actual photon torpedo, or whereas you see in like Star Trek 3, and then in a few applications of it in like the Next Generation series, You actually kind of see that it's hollowed out because they use some kind of like forced plasma torpedo design. Either way, I like the idea of a hollowed out launcher. I think it makes it look better, to be honest. Now, my main critique here is that, you know, their wing Aztecing, beautiful, beautiful application. The ribbing effect to it and everything with the feathered like designs for the wings and everything, great application. It's basically along these designs here that everything. I have no complaints. I think it doesn't look bad at all. But right here, there's a bit of chroming on my designs that I've done. It's not there. That's just not where it's at. And this unusual orange coloring that they added here, I don't even know where they would have got that from. Any of the actual designs for paint that I've ever applied to any of these models have no indicator to that. It's basically a lot of gunmetal gray, a lot of crimson red, and a whole lot of green. I mean, like, you know, if you want to get really crazy with it, there's like 2 or 3 different shades of green that they recommend, but that's basically to give it the impression of being kind of like a dirty ship. It's kind of like the submarine of the Klingon Defense Force. And that's the idea behind it. It's quick, it's fast, it's got a lot of guns, it packs a lot of heat for how small it is. It's an in and out kind of ship, and that's the way it's designed to be. So its application to have these funky weird colors and everything added to it, not a big fan. So give me 1 second and I'll put it right back the way it was. Okay, so we're back. Now, I'm going to pan it around one more time and kind of give you the other main gripe I have. Now, you may note that on this portion right here, there seems to be something missing. Now, this is no fault of Eagle Moss, so I'm not going to throw them under the bus. That was from my own carelessness. I dropped the model at one point, and that little bracket of the landing, or I'm sorry, not landing, totally my fault, of the wing strut broke off. On the actual models, that's the piece that actually joins it to the main body of the main part of the secondary hull that actually allows the wings to go into the upward landing mode, the solid flat-lined flight mode like this model's sitting in, or the swept down motion for the attack mode. Now, I like the fact that they managed to capture the essence of the engine really well with the red, and there's accents of the paint of like a chromed out color on the housing area right above and below it. That's perfect application. That's just the way it's supposed to be from a modeling standpoint. But the fact that the stand inserts right into there kinda bugs me. And I understand that Eagle Moss has to kind of get creative with their stands and everything, but to be fair, I've seen them get creative with their stands. The Borg Tactical Cube just sits on a stand. The giant Borg Cube free gift that they give doesn't have a stand at all. The Romulan drone has a slight peg hole stand where you can just kind of put this long talon-like piece that's on the bottom of it right into that, and it just kind of sits in that. It's perfect. It's brilliant. But like with this, I mean, I realized this was early on in the collection. This is only the 3rd issue, but I kind of would have liked to have seen the stand go maybe along the engine housing in those little grooves on both sides rather than in the engine housing. So, to be fair, the only other main complaint I have, and that is that, and I think it's only because I have a model that does it, and I want to say it was a Hot Wheels model that they made, but it's a Klingon bird of prey, and you can literally place it in all 3 wing positions. So, for me, that's a huge point of where, you know, these models should be in that kind of same spot. It's not a bad design. It looks great. Few paint application things that I would do differently. In all honesty, I think they captured the essence of the dirty look of it really, really well. But, you know, the orange paint on the bottom that's there for no apparent reason whatsoever, not a big fan. The fact that the wings are stuck in the one position that you really almost never see it in. Because despite fans, I've never really had anybody point it out, but one of the things I've always noticed about Klingon bird of prey models is that when they're in this flight mode, that's not the true mode of them from the Next Generation series. in all honesty. Um, if you look at them in the show, they're in a slightly swept upward direction. And only slightly. It's not the landing mode, but I think that was the way they were designing them in that show to kind of distinguish it as a cruiser. Like it doesn't sit in any other way. It's not a fast ship at that point. It's just a big battle cruiser, and it's designed to kind of be like a dreadnought, where it just, it rolls into where it's going and it shoots a lot. It's kind of like a battleship design, in a sense. So I mean, from this standpoint, I mean, it is what it is. But to be fair and honest, my Hot Wheels model was like $10, and other than a few paint application flaws, it does more of what I'd rather it do, in the sense of the fact that if I want it to be in flight mode, I can have it be in flight mode. If I want it to be in attack mode, it can be in attack mode. I can do what I want with it. This one, it only sits in one position. Now, I'm lucky enough to be able to have several different models so that I can set this one in the middle of a trio of them that I have, where one is in the position of landing, this one is in flight mode, and the other one is set in attack mode. So at least for me, I'm able to do it the way I would want to do it. So to grade it on the scales, which we're still working on, we have yet to come up with a really good scaling system for these yet. I'm actually going to grade the Star Trek Eagle Moss issue number 3 Klingon Bird of Prey at like a 7 out of 10. Just because, again, to be fair, I mean, there's things about it I don't like, there's things about it I do like. Even in analyzing the wing pattern on the top, it's not necessarily supposed to be the red that's blazed on the bottom, but these weird khaki colors that they've came up with, these weird desert tans and browns that are on the top of it, that's not the way it's designed, and that's not the way it's supposed to look. If they wanted to use a couple of different shades of green, they would have done a much better job with it. But overall, I don't have any real complaints for it other than just those few things. So thanks for viewing. As I said, 7 out of 10 rating we're going to give it. It's a solid model. It's a good piece. I don't dislike it. I just would have done it a little bit differently, that's all. So leave comments in the section below. Any questions, concerns, fellow Trek fans have any kind of good critiquing or want to debate me on any of this, please feel free. I always enjoy that stuff. So hey, keep it real, leave the comments, and hey, we're working on it.